so that they told me to record this as well.
Okay.
And okay, and now to start lives. No. טוב. הנה, resume recording. Okay. Okay. So, this to stop. Okay. Just a minute. I am putting the text, the link to the text and the link to the donation in the chat.
Yeah.
So everybody can enter the text.
Anyway, the text I will show on the screen. So then.
Okay.
So that will be easy.
Okay, and just a few words. So, hello and shalom, וברוכים הבאים לריטריט של טארה הירוקה עם המורה אני לובסנג. אנחנו בחלק הראשון של היום הראשון, ואחרי העברית אני אעבור לאנגלית. After the Hebrew I will say a few things in English and then we shall start. אפשר להשתתף איתנו לייב בזום, או לראות את ההקלטה של השיעור הזה ושל כל הריטריט בערוץ היוטיוב של עמותת ידידי הדרמה. קוראים לי מיכל, ואם יש שאלות של מנהלה או דנה, דברים כאלה, אפשר בצ'אט. אני אפתח ואסיים את היום הזה והיום הבא של הריטריט, ואת שאר הריטריט תעביר אני לובסנג, המורה. היא ביקשה לאפשר למי שרוצה לשחרר את עצמה מהמיוט, ולכן אני מבקשת לשים כל הזמן לב אם המיקרופון פתוח או סגור. אני מבקשת גם מכולם להפעיל את המצלמה, כי יהיה נעים יותר למורה לראות אותנו על המסך. למי שדואג לפרטיות, ההקלטה היא על ספיקר ויו, זאת אומרת שיגרו בעיקר את המורה או את מי ששואל שאלות. בצ'אט מופיע הלינק לטקסט של הסדהאנה, אפשר גם להגיע ללינק דרך האתר של ידידי הדרמה. להיכנס לדף האירוע באתר, לגלול עד הסוף, ושם מופיע הלינק לטקסט. אחרי הלינק לטקסט יש גם לינק לתרומות לדנה. כל תרומה שתעבירו לנו הולכת אך ורק למורה ולקיום פעולות העמותה. כל הפרטים בנוגע לתרומות מופיעים בצ'אט, גם של הזום וגם ביוטיוב. אפשר לתרום להמשך הפעילויות בעברה בנקאית או בפייפל, אפשר גם לפנות ישירות לעמותה דרך האתר. אני מזכירה שכל אחד מאיתנו אחראית לשים את עצמה או עצמו על מיוט, אנחנו עוברים עכשיו להסבר באנגלית, ואז אני לובסנג תתחיל ללמד. שיהיה לנו המון בהצלחה. Hello, my name is Michal, and this is the beginning of the first day of our 2 days Tara retreat, hosted by the Dharma Friends of Israel. You can stay with us live on Zoom, or you can watch us live on YouTube. This whole retreat can be viewed on the YouTube channel of Dharma Friends of Israel. This retreat will be guided by dear Ani Lobsang. If you are with us on Zoom, please take care and make sure you are on mute. We also ask you to turn on your camera, as it would be nicer for the teacher to see you. Concerning privacy, the recording will be on speaker view, so unless you talk or ask a question, you shall not be seen. In the chat box, there's a link to the text we shall be using today. Concerning Dana, all donations that you give us is going directly to the teacher or in order to fund the activities of Dharma Friends. We are all volunteers. All our activities are funded by donations only. We accept PayPal or bank transfer, or you can contact us directly on the site. Thank you very much for being with us. We shall start now with our dear teacher, Ani Lobsang. Anila, the stage is yours.
Wow, that was very professional. Amazing. Okay, so hello everybody. Well, you know, all the people I see, I think you are pretty familiar with the practice. So I kind of wonder whether we have to go into big explanations, which was planned to do for, you know, now Nadar is also coming and she also knows. Or we just start with the sadhana so that we get one more sadhana. What do you think? I mean, you can, if one person says, no, I would like to have some explanations, then we will do. If it's not needed, then there's no need. So we can do a bit like, you know, I quite like it when the group is not so big, so then we can do really according to what you would like, and you can have a say. So we are a real sangha, not just, you know, me going blah blah blah, hello Smada, not just me going blah 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 and then you having to just do whatever I decide, but we can do together. What do you think?
I think it's always good to hear explanations again and again and refresh it from time to time.
Okay.
And
so you see,
Leora
is always very quick. So it's always the fastest and the quickest to get usually what they want. No, it's okay. So how are you first, you know, everybody? How are you doing? You can open your microphone and you can tell me so we get at least some kind of connection here, you know, personal, not just seeing your not just seeing your faces. Sigal, how are you?
Hi, Anila. I'm very good. It's always so nice to practice with you. So
okay.
I miss the Guru Puja with you too. You're not doing them anymore. I mean, lately.
No, but somebody else is doing. So you see, I'm not in the center in Bern anymore.
I know.
Because I really want them to become independent, and they are. They're doing all the activities I used to do, they're doing. And so the Guru Puja will be in English, the Tara Puja will be in German, the precepts will be in English, and what else are they doing? And the Medicine Buddha Puja is also in German. So but the Guru Puja, because it's Raphael leading it, so he doesn't speak German. So it's still going, but we know. So I'm doing sometimes with Venerable René, and you know, where I just follow, or I'm doing here with the French group. So because I'm living quite near where the French-speaking group is. So yesterday, it's very nice. Yesterday there's a monastery nearby, also Christian monastery, Franciscan monastery. So yesterday we had an interfaith meeting about, you know, the rituals around death because of the COVID, where, you know, here in the first wave, people couldn't go and visit the dying people. I don't know how it was in Israel. Was it the same?
Same.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it was very difficult. And so some people still have, you know, they feel guilty or, so we did some rituals around that, and we called it healing the living, kind of putting the living back together. So there was a man from Israel, but he's also from Geneva, David, which is very nice. I was very happy to meet him. And then his mom came and his dad. His mom lives in Jerusalem, so I already have an invitation to have tea with her in Jerusalem. And it was so, you know, and then they recited prayers in Hebrew. So I really felt that, you know, I do have a very strong connection because I was very, very touched. I was very moved. And we had very lively conversation with his mom, his dad, his son was there too. So it was nice to see 3 generations who are actually practicing. And it was interesting to see how, you know, when it comes to dying, how in the Jewish tradition, you have to conserve the body, you can't do anything with it. And because it's very important. And in the Buddhist tradition, you know, the ashes, or they go, or even in Tibet, they kind of cut the body apart and then they feed it to the vultures. So it was interesting to see and to hear each other and to do these rituals together. It was very touching and very moving. Yeah. So, and Leora, how are you?
Yesterday, Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo told us that we are facing difficulties. This is samsara. What did we expect? So at least, kind of advice, We don't have to add to it our inner stuff like fear, anxiety, and all the other, our being victim, like I'm trying to do it. It's a very good advice, very basic, but important to, I needed the reminder. So at least I'm doing Tara practice.
Yeah, right. So it's like, you know, I think, of course, that we are facing difficulties and it's not going to get better very soon. And but it's really good to remember we are human beings, so we can deal with we have so many resources to deal with difficulties. Like, for example, if I would be a wild animal and I broke a part of my body, then, you know, I mean, I would have the pain and it would heal, but how would it heal? Definitely not like it heals with a cast. Also, I can deal when I have pain in the cast, I can deal with it and think it's impermanent. I can deal with it by thinking, yeah, but it will heal. It's okay. You don't have to be afraid, and so on. So it's really good to remember that in this life, we do have these human resources that we will not have when we are reborn in a lower state. So that really, I think that really helps. And to be grateful to have, you know, such a big range of practices that we can do, like now Tara, for example, which of course it's, you know, I can blah, blah, blah and talk about it, but these are things, and it's with everything in Buddhism, for it to work, you have to do it, and then you experience how it functions and how it works. And I'm not sure if you're aware of it, that Leora Price is doing this very Tara practice, like I think once a week, something like that. And they translated it into Hebrew also, so that's very, so that's good to know. And the thing is also, you know, when we have a Sangha, even if it's just on Zoom, it's much easier to practice, because I used to do it in German, like once a week also when I was still in Bern. Now I'm not doing it anymore. So, but I'm doing other things. So, so it's really good to see that because we have all these methods that we can choose from, but we have to apply them, then we have to experience that this works. And then it's kind of easier to continue also. And we don't have to add on our stuff. And it was very interesting to see yesterday also, because somebody came, you could see the person is not well and the person is disturbed. And he came quite from far away. He came from Colmar, which is in France. It's about maybe 3 or 4 hours drive. And he only saw the title on Facebook. He didn't see that it's an interfaith thing. He didn't see that it's all about death. He just, you know, he focused on the title, which is fixing the living, you know, or repairing the living. And he came and he wanted to be repaired. And he kind of thought it was some kind of healing congress, you know, where you just sit and somebody's healing you or something like that. So he got quite upset when I talked about methods that we can use to transform our mind, because he's not really ready to apply them. Yeah, because it's the first time he hears it. So when we see that, okay, thank you, Leora. Wow. Okay, so yeah, so when he heard it, instead of being happy to hear something, but because he's not ready to really do it, I didn't talk about Tara and those kind of things. I talk about Lojong, you know, mind transformation, meditating on death, like every day, thinking that this could be your last day. But he was absolutely not interested in death. He got so upset when he heard that the whole day was about death and funerals and, you know, like rituals in different traditions. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing, because he was so closed, and he had so much suffering. You could see it. He was so tense. But there's nothing we could do for him, nor me, nor the Jews, nor the Christians. And, you know, but all we could do is kind of send him, like, you know, all our good wishes and thing. But for the rest of the day, you know, it's really nice to hear how Christians have their certain methods and ways to deal with difficult things. Then the Jewish people also, and it's always good, I think, to meet people from different faiths. And it would be good if one could also add atheists to it. You know, in these interreligious meetings, what I'm always missing is people who are atheists, because then I won't be the only one not believing in a creator God. And what I also saw is like believing in a creator God, especially now, can be really comforting, because, you know, when we look at the mess in the world, and as Tejuma was saying, we are facing difficult times. Yes, we are. If you think that there's somebody who is totally in control, then, you know, he could just end the whole thing by saying, okay, now I punished them enough, or maybe they learned something, now they suffered enough. A bit like your parents when they lock you in your room and you're just sitting there and waiting, you don't have to do much, but you're hoping that, okay, at one point they will open the door again, and then the whole thing will be finished. So that can be quite comforting in a way. But then in Buddhism, knowing there's no such person who has the full control over this, which leads us into the Tara practice, there is no such person who has full control over this and who can just go like that and say, okay, now finished. That means we have to end it. And so when you listen to Buddhism, and when we do Tara practice or other deity practice, Tara is not going to liberate us. Yeah, we have to do the job. But what we do when we do Tara practice or other deity practices, we get in contact with our own Buddha nature. Now it's a Buddhist retreat, so I can talk like this. Yesterday I couldn't talk about Buddha nature. I was just talking about our fundamental natural goodness that we have, natural wisdom that we have, natural spaciousness that we have, and we were kind of meditating on it. So what she's doing with this picture outside, and then, you know, absorbing her into us, and then arising as Tara, we are nourishing that Buddha nature, and then we're creating some kind of different reality. And especially, you know, I talked a little bit about that we are projecting outside and about emptiness. If you hear this for the first time, it is so confusing. And, you know, people say, but you can't just say everything is illusion. So then what's the point of doing anything? You know, exactly the questions that we asked also at the beginning when we heard about emptiness. You know, when you hear about emptiness, you go about, well, what's the point of compassion? Why should I do something? Why is it just not, you know? And other people get upset and they say, but there is real suffering and people are really lonely and all this. Because I also said, well, you know, this feeling of being lonely, it is such an illusion because we're never alone, right? We're constantly surrounded by people. So it's us who is making this division. And I really like, you know, this when Einstein says, like, a human being is part of a unit, it is part of what we call the universe. But because of our mental kind of almost optical delusion, we are creating separation, me and them. And then, you know, then we're having problems because then we get attached to some and averse to others, the others we don't care about. And then this is how the problems then kind of start. Okay, so Tantra practice or deity practice is not the same as philosophy. So what you need to do that is, first of all, is Bodhichitta. Yeah, so that it becomes really, it serves the purpose, because, you know, you want to become like Tara in order to benefit all sentient beings. So if you don't have that, if you don't even believe in your Buddha potential, then then it becomes some kind of a game or something, I think. You know, oh, nice, I'll visualize myself as Tara and all this. And since Leora talked about Tejuma, Tenzin Palmo, there is a video of her where she is answering questions, and I think one is about Tantra. So her answer was, you know, not just for Tantra, but anyway, for our existence, the fundamental mistake that we are making when we're doing these kind of practices, we're sitting there, we're visualizing ourselves. She's talking about Chenrezig, but, you know, we can take Tara. We're sitting there, we do all the preliminaries, we absorb Tara into us, we dissolve into emptiness, we arise as Tara. And then we kind of, we go sit there and we do the mantra, you know, maybe a little bit of visualization, maybe not. And then we go Om Tare tu Tare tu Reso, Om Tare tu Tare tu Reso, Om Tare tu Tare tu Reso, and so on. But then all of a sudden we go like, you know, the thought comes in and we go like, oh, you know, what am I doing here? What a silly thing. You know, here I am, Ani Lobsang, or Rita, or whatever you call yourself, you know, faking that I am Tara. And she says, this is the fundamental mistake that we make. We are actually Tara, but we think we are Ani Lobsang. We believe that we are Ani Lobsang and we think we are faking to be Tara, but it's totally the opposite. So in order to shift that, in order to have, you know, pure vision. So now with pure vision, again, yesterday we had such a big problem because I was reading out the sutra at the time of death, Where to Point the Mind, where the Buddha says, see all phenomena as pure. Pure meaning free of adding anything or taking anything away. That's what pure means. It's not a higher being who is making the phenomena pure. Like the phenomena outside is not pure from its own side. It becomes pure when we see it as being empty of inherent existence, when we see that we are adding a lot of things to it. So there were a few Buddhists there yesterday also. So they said, wow, that was so clear what you said. But people who hear this for the first time, it is so confusing, you know, because all we have to choose from is either real and true existence or non-existence. We don't see that there's something that is different, like non-inherent existence or dependent arising, which is, it's not a little bit of non-existence and a little bit of inherent existence, and then we just, you know, go put it together, but it's something totally different. It's neither non-existence nor real existence. So with visualizing these forms, colors, sounds, which are more symbolic, we are able to touch our subtle mind. You know, we go away from the intellect a little bit, although, you know, then when there's aversion towards these practices, our mind comes up and says, but the Buddha said I should check everything, whether this is valid or not valid. But with these kind of things, you can't really check. So again, you know, what I'm saying, it's not from me. I just heard it from other people. So when we did a Chenrezig retreat with Khandro, I don't know if anybody knows her. She is the oracle of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a wonderful lady who just came out of Tibet at one point, like a nomad, you know, nobody knew her. Very, very, in a way, simple lady, and a lady, like a girl almost she was. And when His Holiness was teaching, she fell into trance and she started singing. And, you know, I don't know if you heard oracle singing, it's quite strange. And it touches something in you that you get a little bit afraid, you know, because you don't know what's going on. So you feel kind of a bit tense. So first day, she kind of, when they are in trance, they collapse and then they faint. So they kind of carried her out. And the second day, when the same thing happens again, His Holiness was just, you know, as she started singing, the security guards got up and wanted to take her out. His Holiness, he continued teaching, but he just said, no, just leave her there. And she continued singing, and then she fainted and they carried her out. And then, you know, then it was like the higher lamas were kind of questioning her. And again, you know, she went into trance. So they saw she was actually a manifestation of the 12th Tenma. So it's some kind of Dakinis who are in the company of Palden Lama, I think. So she became the oracle of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and she also, like, there was danger of earthquake, I think, and so she, you know, she said in trance that they should do this and this puja, and so they did. Like, everybody got together, all the monks, and she would kind of she would walk around amongst the monk as a lay woman and say, you're out, you're not pure, leave the puja, like this, you know, and that was respected. So if you know Tibetan culture, this is quite something. So anyway, so she doesn't want to be seen as the oracle of the Dalai Lama. If she comes and gives teachings or talks, you know, you're not allowed to put this on the flyer, the oracle of the Dalai Lama, blah, 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 and this and that, in order to attract people because they want to see an oracle. She's very direct. She's very, you know, she thinks that we Westerners are very often just playing games, which is kind of true. And so anyway, so we were in that Chandresik retreat, and people ask her questions and questions and questions. And then, you know, but how is this? How is the color? And, you know, do I have to visualize all the 1,000 hands? Do I not do this and this and that? So at one point she said, just stop and just do it, because all these practices are for the intellect to kind of stop functioning, which covers reality. And then the mind will go into more subtle state, and then you will understand what this is all about. Okay? So for me, that was very, very touching how she said, you know, just do it. Don't ask too many questions. If you have faith in the Buddha, if you accept the two levels of existence, like the ultimate level of emptiness, the conventional level of dependent arising, if you accept that, if you accept the Four Noble Truths, if you accept that there is suffering, if you accept that there is causes for the suffering, if you, and then very important for Tantra practice, if you accept that you can stop the suffering completely, because if you accept that there's causes for the suffering, it also means I can stop these causes. Yeah. It doesn't fit. And we say, yeah, suffering has causes, but the Third Noble Truth, like the cessation of suffering, this is not possible. And I think for us Westerners, it's really important that we work on that cessation of suffering, because it's not natural for us to be suffering, because it's based on wrong views. You know, if the suffering would be based on something outside, yeah, like the air or this knife, that would be this is just condition for our suffering. Yeah. But if we really accept that the root cause is our wrong views, then of course wrong views can be exchanged with right views. Now, nobody says it's easy. Yeah, and nobody says it will be quick. And nobody says, oh, you just have to sit down and visualize yourself as Tara. No, it's not going to work like this. Yeah, and then the subtle mind will understand. It's good to start with a good intellectual understanding of renunciation, which also, I think with me, it already kind of, there's a lot to do there still. Like, you know, really all the things I do is in order to get out of samsara, no matter what I do. It doesn't have to be just, you know, formal Dharma practice. Like renunciation is also that we go like, wow, this is really wonderful, or wow, this is really ugly. And then to understand, hey, but this is just your mind projecting it. You know, renunciation means to understand the suffering of samsara, that it's all a projection from my mind. And it's not like I don't want to see my friends anymore, I don't want to eat ice cream anymore. It's all about, I need to be able to understand reality as it is. Renunciation is not something punishing or sad or terrible or whatever. You know, somebody wants to take something away from me. Renunciation is really giving up what creates suffering. I mean, this shouldn't be a sad thing, but we have become so used to it. You know, we don't know any higher happiness of being free from negative emotions or unhelpful emotions, that we are trying to console ourselves with candy, but we could have gold. I read once a very nice article by a Theravadan monk about exchanging, you know, candies for gold, or exchanging gold for candies. We could have gold, but we kind of settle for very short moments of happiness that we spend a lot of money and a lot of time with. But I'm not saying you shouldn't have those moments of pleasure and happiness, because especially for us Westerners, where we always want to be perfect right now, we always want to do everything right now, and we don't have the patience kind of to accept our mistakes or laziness or shortcomings. So it's really important that we're not being too strict with ourselves, and from time to time go like, yeah, okay, I'm going to have this beer now, or this joint, or this ice cream, or whatever. But in order, I want to recognize it's what it does to me, you know. I want to integrate it in my practice. And you can eat an ice cream by just thinking, wow, it's so delicious, with behind it a bad conscience that you shouldn't really eat too much ice cream. Or you can eat an ice cream with the thought, how wonderful, people created this ice cream, you know, thank you very much. And then by thinking so many beings are involved in this, in making this ice cream, you feel the connection, your heart opens, and you have to wish to do something for them. And so we come to the second aspect of the path, which is needed in order to do tantric practices, which is bodhicitta. Yeah, not just for myself, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we were with the Four Noble Truths. So if you accept the Four Noble Truths, like the third one, that suffering can be ceased, then also we go in that direction, and then we come to the Fourth Noble Truth, which is, of course, the path. So there's so many different paths. I mean, the Buddha gave 84,000 different teachings. He didn't expect somebody to know all these 84,000 teachings. It's like if you are sick, if you have a certain sickness, and you go to a chemist store, you don't have to swallow all the pills. You know, it's enough if you get a few, or if you get the right combination, let's say like that. Yeah, so this is also good to know. So tantric teachings is one of these methods, but it's really good as a basis, which I almost know all of you who are here, maybe for Masha, except for Masha. So I know that you know about these three principal aspects of the path, which is renunciation, then bodhicitta. You know, I'm doing this tantra practice or this Tara practice in order to then become like Tara, so I can really benefit all sentient beings, not just a little bit here and there. And you know, I'm not saying we're not benefiting others, but it's nothing compared to somebody who is realized. You know, just think about your guru, the way he benefits us, or His Holiness the Dalai Lama also. You know, when you are in the presence of such a being, you are so inspired. And when we ask Tara for protection or Chandresik for protection, it's not that they will then, you know, put their hands over us and we're protected. We're actually asking them to be protected from our own negative emotions, who are creating more suffering. When we have suffering, usually our reaction is with, you know, aversion, or when something is really good, with attachment. So then we're creating more causes for suffering. So that's what we want to be protected from. And this is why also, like in this Tara practice, that's why I like this sadhana, because it works with the 5 lights, where we go against these 5, it becomes a direct antidote for our 5 kind of poisons, they call it. And it has to do also then with the 5 Buddha families. And I can show you maybe a chart that Valda put together last time we did Tara practice in Israel, which also then I can put it in the chat, and then you can download it. I should have sent it to Michal, which I forgot. I even forgot that I have it, but it's really helpful. So, you know, when we do the sadhana, you don't have to learn this by heart now, and you don't have to have it next to you so that you know, red goes into the throat chakra and it purifies negative actions of speech and attachment. It's the wisdom of discrimination, and it's the Amitabha Lotus family. You don't have to remember all this. It's just sometimes good to know it, and I will mention it anyway. Yeah, so you don't get too tense by wanting to learn it by heart. And here also is we have the actions and the 4 opponent powers. So thanks to Valda, we have this wonderful thing here. which then I will put it in the chat, and so that you can see it. So what we're actually doing here is maybe what is missing here, what could be added is like the 5 aggregates, because Vairochana is purifying the form aggregate, our body. Amitabha is purifying our aggregate of discrimination. So it purifies the aggregates into the 5 Buddha families. And when we work against the 5 kleshas, or the 5 unhelpful emotions, it turns it into the 5 wisdoms of the 5 Buddha families. Yeah, so when you come across these 5 Buddha families, when you take an initiation, you come across those like all the time. So then maybe, you see what it is. So these 5 Buddha families, they're not separate Buddhas, okay? They are just, every Buddha has these 5 Buddha families. And so one visualizes these 5 colors very, very often. When you get an initiation, one visualizes them either separately in order to purify. Maybe purify is not the right, purify, to wash away, or to, Somebody has a good suggestion there?
Transform.
Yeah, transform is a good way, Smadar. Transform is a good way to transform because it's energy, what we call negative emotion or unhelpful emotions, they're just energy. So to take away, the projecting aspect, which distorts the whole thing, to take away the filter of these energies, and then in order to create negative karma, because we act on what we are seeing, then we transform them into these 5 wisdoms. Yeah. So talking about Tara herself, she can be seen as a historic figure. So I'm sure many of you kind of know the story of Tara, where she was born as a princess. And so she was very, it wasn't during the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, it was during the time, long time ago, another eon, another era. So, but there were, Buddhas were, very often Buddhas were around. Buddha Shakyamuni is not the first Buddha. So because it's our nature and our mind is looking for happiness. So, so there's these higher beings who are then having the breakthrough and actually attain full awakening. So she was very inspired by the Buddha. I think he was called Great Drum or something like that. Can't remember so well. She was called Yeshadawa. And so she was this princess and made offerings to the Buddha and to his Sangha. So the monks kind of said, well, it's difficult to attain enlightenment, or maybe even impossible to attain enlightenment as a female. So why don't you make just prayers? Why don't you dedicate, when you offer all these things to us, why don't you dedicate that next life you will be reborn as a man, so that you can practice in a better way? So actually this, this idea is not so far-fetched, because when we had the first nuns conference in Ladakh, because the nuns in Ladakh and in the Tibetan tradition, they were not anymore. It's really changing drastically, and it's changing in a good way, but they're very neglected. All they could do was doing prayers and, look after the cows and the yaks and the tsos, and maybe look after the babies that the sister had. And very often they were living at home. They had no Dharma education. So we were thinking a lady, Elizabeth, who was quite rich. So she said, okay, I'll pay for it. So we rented a hotel and we invited some lamas, and we had the nuns coming, the ones who wanted to come. We paid, she paid for the journey to come. And so the nuns came, and they were so happy. And some of them were like 60, 70, 80 years old, and they had tears in their eyes when they received Dharma teachings. So, you know, when we listen to Dharma teachers like Geshe Dorje Damdru, Geshe Ma, Yaki La, and people like this, just maybe try to understand how fortunate we are, you know. So, but it was the first time they received teachings, Dharma teachings in their life. They heard that there is Dharma teachings, but they were never kind of there. They had tears in their eyes. And one very old nun said, wow, this is so wonderful. You know, I was making prayers again and again and again and again to be reborn as a boy, so that in my next life, so I can become a monk and I can go and receive Dharma teachings. Can you imagine? Yeah, so this is, you know, this is the attitude that is good to have when we receive Dharma teachings, because it's like the nectar who will take us to the state where we want to go. So, you know, this whole thing, you should be reborn as a man, so it's easier to practice Dharma. It was still present like 30 years ago, because that Dharma teachings for the nuns in Ladakh happened 30 years ago, and out of that came the Ladakhi Nuns Association. So I don't know if some of you go to Ladakh. There's Ani Palmo, is also it's not Chetsunma Palmo, but Ani Palmo is also a doctor, a Tibetan doctor, and she's the head of that association, and she's doing a wonderful job, of course, with the help of money who comes from the West. So they're getting good education. They're also doing their Geshe degree or become doctors. And so this is what she said also, you know, we have to go slow because the society will not accept Geshe-mas yet. So what we first do, we will train the nuns to be beneficial to the society, to become doctors, for example. Yeah, so then they will see that they have wonderful qualities, and then it will be easier for the society, for the lay people, to accept that also women can be geshes, and then they will support them also financially. So that's a good way. So anyway, so this princess said, no, sorry, I will not do this. And I will, until I am fully enlightened, I will get enlightened in female form. So that is the historical Tara. But then there's another Tara who is more, you know, is more kind of a manifestation of the Buddha's activity. So that's why she's green, because it's the color of doing deeds, of activities. It's also kind of the color who represents the wind. She's as swift as the wind. Like Chenresik is white, so is a manifestation of a Buddha's compassion. Manjushri is orange, so it's the manifestation of the Buddha's wisdom. He's also a bodhisattva, okay? He's also a Buddha in his own right. So it's like, again, so this is why we have to let go a little bit of our intellect saying, yeah, but why? He's a bodhisattva, now she's saying it's a manifestation. Others are saying that, you know, he has a pure land and all these kind of things. It's not so easy. We have to be quite flexible there, I think. And then Vajrapani, who's dark blue, he's a manifestation of a Buddha's power. And Tara is a manifestation of a Buddha's activity. Okay, and she's green. And so that can be, so that is like, that you can think of Tara in that way also, like the historical figure or the manifestation of Buddha's activities. And the best way to think of Tara is your own potential to become Tara. That when you visualize her, it is not a separate Tara from your mind, because that Tara is kind of, is not dualistic from your mind. When we do the practice, it's quite obvious, isn't it? Because without you visualizing her, she wouldn't be there at that moment. So don't make Tara something separate from your mind, because otherwise it becomes theistic. Yeah, like Tara is, of course, she protects from all fears and all that. But why can she protect from your fear? Because you do the practice. You are doing the main thing of the practice. And as I said, because you visualize her there, then it brings you in contact with your own Buddha potential. Yeah. So I think for us, this is the difficult part, because I also grew up in a theistic society, although my parents were not religious, but still that's what you heard. There's God, there's the creator, he punishes, he rewards. Then there's Jesus. In my case here in the West, in Europe, there's Jesus. You just have to believe in him, then he will forgive you. So these figures, these outside figures, be it God, be it Jesus, be it, you know, the Hindu pantheon, be it Tara, all they do is to help us to put our mind in a certain way so that we are protected from negative emotions arising. And before I was talking about your guru, and I was talking about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So when you are in the presence of somebody like this, you know, you are protected from your negative emotions. Maybe not jealousy, I'm not so sure, because we can get very quickly jealous when he gives more attention to somebody else, especially if it's somebody that we dislike. So then that also, it really helps when you think, oh, maybe, we don't know, right? So don't be sure, but you can think, you know, it's a certain view. We can think, maybe he is like a good doctor, because a good doctor would give more attention to a really sick patient than to me, that I'm actually doing quite well. So that will help your jealousy. And then don't let the jealousy go into, this is what I'm saying, we're just assuming it's like this, because otherwise the jealousy goes into arrogance by thinking, oh, I must be doing really well. He's not paying any attention to me. So be careful. Yeah, that were just, but definitely we wouldn't explode in his face. We wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't treat them in a very disrespectful way. We would be very happy that they're there. So we have a duty almost to make sure that our mind is happy. But when I say happy, it's like such a, it's like a word like old shoes, you know, it's like it's been used too much and becomes like, we really have to make sure as a Dharma practitioner that we recognize what's going on in the mind. I mean, this is maybe a bit better explanation what we should do, you know, because otherwise, again, you start to suppress because you don't want to have the anger or the jealousy or whatever when you go, oh, it's my duty as a Dharma practitioner to be always happy. No, you can be sad, you can be angry at anything, at the universe, at others, whatever. But the main thing is that you recognize it and that you do something positive with this anger. You can do something positive with the anger when you don't kind of throw it on the other, and by recognizing it, by studying it. Oh, it makes me suffer. Oh, it distorts. Oh, what my anger is saying is not true. And then to go deeper and deeper and deeper and try to find what is angry. And you go deeper, 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 deeper. You don't find anything. You know, actually, very strong emotions are very helpful to meditate on emptiness. When you are meditating on emptiness, you're already feeling very spacious and everything is okay. You might get lost in that bliss. Whereas if you try to find something that is so manifest like anger, it's very helpful by then not finding it. Because if it's not there, you're not going into the, you know, into the mode of not finding something that you thought were there, because it's not there. So then what are you going to analyze? Yeah, so again, you know, Dharma practitioners, sometimes they are afraid of showing that they're in a bad mood, they're suffering, they're disappointed, they're angry, whatever, but it's okay as long as we know what's going on and as long as we use it for something beneficial. Yeah. Or just, you know, beneficial by saying, wow, this is not what I want. I have it at the moment, but this is not really what I want. So we're not kind of feeding it, but also not judging yourself for having it. As long as we are in samsara, you know, then that's it. We will have anger and detachment and all these kind of things. Okay. So when we do the sadhana, then we will go through these. Maybe we make a break now also. Yeah, we go through these things, but since the group is quite small, we can adjust the schedule a bit. Which is I don't know why I was born in Switzerland. Swiss people are so exact with the clock. I have such problems always to keep to the time. So. Do you have questions about this? Or, you know, I think you can ask if you want, but I think it's really good to do the sadhana and then maybe questions come up. But if you have burning questions right now, of course you can ask. Then we do 15 minutes break and then we do the sadhana.
Lobsang, could you please put the chart on the chat during the break?
Yeah, I will put that. Of course, I will do it in the break. I'm not such a multitasker. I cannot talk and look and
During the
then,
break.
you know, I know there's people who can do that. I admire them highly for being able to do that. They can put things on the and like that. But then I get distracted. But I'll do it I'll do it in the break. Yeah. Any other query or something? Otherwise, it's 5 minutes to 9, 5 minutes to 10, 5 minutes to 10. So I would suggest we continue at 10 past 10, like after 15 minutes. Is that okay? And then we do the sadhana. And all questions you have, just write them down and we will definitely have time to answer them. Okay? Michal is talking. I don't know if you want to say something because your microphone is not on.
He's excellent with me, no problem.
Or you're just reciting mantras?
No.
Michal
You?
must have been Tibetan, I think, in last life, because very often she's kind of mumbling mantras, isn't it? Like all the Tibetans are doing all the time. So probably. So we can see that we are carrying habits from past life. So we want to be sure that we're only carrying good habits here. Okay, so I'll see you again in 15 minutes.